Hello, are you ready to learn for today? Our lesson for today will be all about nature of roots of a quadratic equation. So for today, we'll be discussing the characteristics of a roots of a quadratic equation, and we'll be using the idea of discriminant. So these are what we call the nature of roots, and we will describe it using the discriminant. So this will be the summary. If b squared minus 4ac, which is our discriminant will be equal to 0, then the roots are real, rational, and equal. If b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, then you will be having two choices because there will be two cases wherein the value of your discriminant might be a positive number or greater than 0. So after that, you'll just identify, is it a perfect square or not a perfect square? So because if it is a perfect square, it will be real, rational, and unequal. But if it is not a perfect square, therefore this will be real, unequal, and irrational. So in another case, if your discriminant b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, then the roots are not real or imaginary. So let's furthermore understand this one. So just to summarize it more, if your discriminant is equal to 0, this will be the types of roots that you will be having: real, rational, and equal. So if it is positive, you just need to identify, is this positive number perfect square or not a perfect square? So the difference between the two will be, is it rational or irrational? Because if it is a perfect square, it will be rational. If it is not a perfect square, it will be irrational. And on the last case, if your discriminant is negative, therefore the roots will automatically be not real or imaginary. So this is just the things that we have to understand as we go on the example. So for example, number one, by just having the value or just having the given quadratic equation, how do we really identify using the discriminant that the characteristics or the nature of the roots of a quadratic equation? So let's start with example number one. We have a given x squared minus 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. So first step is to identify the values of a, b, and c. So before we identify the values of a, b, and c, we have to be sure if it is in standard form: ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Which in this case, I think it's already in standard form, so we can already identify the values of a, b, and c. So a will be equal to 1, b will be equal to negative 3, and c will be equal to negative 5. So from that, next step is to write the discriminant formula, which will be equal to, the discriminant is equal to b squared minus 4ac. And from that formula, we'll have to identify, or we have to just substitute the values of each of them. So for b, we have negative 3. Yan, diba? B is equal to negative 3. So b squared. So therefore there will be, this will be negative 3 squared minus 4 times a, since a is equal to 1. So we'll write 1 here. And then negative 5, which will be the value of c. So for ac, 4 times 1 times negative 5. So we just need to simplify the values. So we have negative 3 squared will be equal to 9, or negative 3 times negative 3 will also be equal to 9. So minus, we can just simplify first, 1 times negative 5. So we will be having negative 5. Then next, so just copy 9 here. Then we multiply negative 4 times negative 5. Right now, it will become positive because negative times negative is positive. So we'll be having 4 times negative 5 will be equal to positive 20. So our discriminant will just be equal to 9 plus 20, which will be equal to 29. Therefore, the discriminant value, as we observe, is positive. So we'll just need to choose which of these two given ideas will give us the nature of or characteristics of the root. So para malaman natin, we have to identify, is 29 a perfect square or not a perfect square? So from this, I think 29 is not a perfect square. Therefore, we cannot identify it as the first case, but rather the second case of being a positive discriminant. So it will be not a perfect square. Therefore, the nature or the characteristics of the roots will be real. So it will be real, irrational, and unequal. Okay. So, ayan lang yung gagawin natin for the lessons for today. So, we'll have these kinds of example. Next, let's consider example number 2. So, in this case, this is not yet in standard form. So, we just need to transfer the values from the right side of the equation going to the left side to make it in the form of ax squared plus bx is equal to c. So, in that case, we add, or we'll try to make it in standard form. So, the standard form of this one will be equal to x squared. So negative 5, it will become a positive 5 will become negative 5x. Then positive 11x transferred on the left side of the equation will be equal to positive 11 is equal to 0. So from that, we can already identify the values of a, b, and c. So a will now be equal to 1, b is equal to negative 5, and c will now be equal to 11. So once again, let's just identify the values of the discriminant, or the formula first of the discriminant. So we have a formula d, or the discriminant is equal to b squared minus 4ac. So from that, substitute lang natin yung values ni a, b, and c from the given formula of discriminant. So we have negative 5 quantity squared minus 4. So don't forget may 4 sa formula. A will be equal to 1. Yan, a will be equal to 1. And c will be equal to 11. So 11. Therefore, we have negative 5 squared, or negative 5 times negative 5, which will be equal to positive 25 minus 1 times 11 muna natin. That will be 4 times 11 na lang. So, simplify pa natin. 25 minus 4 times 11 is 44. Therefore, we'll be having 25 minus 25 minus 24, which will be equal to a negative value, which will be equal to negative 19. So the discriminant will be equal to a negative number. Therefore, there will only be one choice as we observe, because there is only one na possible way na magne-negative siya. Ito ay kapag ang roots mo ay not real or imaginary. So, ang case niyan, if it is negative, so since our discriminant is negative, therefore the roots are not real or imaginary. So we don't need to classify anymore if it is equal or rational or irrational. So kapag not real or imaginary, okay na yung roots, okay na yung characteristics of the roots na yun. So last example will be this one. So first, I think we have to make it understand or transform it into a standard form so we can identify the values of a, b, and c. So, the standard form of this one will be equal to 2x squared. Lagay ko lang dito si plus 18. And I think lalagay natin sa gitna si 12 para standard form yung itsura niya. But this time, we have to make it negative 12x. Yan, kasi dito ay positive siya. Pag nilipat sa kabila, negative. So, isin natin will be equal to 0. So, from that, we can already identify the values of A, which is equal to 2. B will be equal to negative 12. And C will be equal to 18. So from that, let's now write the formula of the discriminant. D is equal to b squared minus 4ac. Then we have to substitute the values from the formula. So we have b will be equal to negative 12. So we have negative 12 quantity squared minus, Isipin natin, minus 4 times A. Since A is equal to 2, let's substitute 2 here. And C will be equal to 18 or positive 18. So substitute natin siya dyan. So we have negative 12 squared or negative 12 times negative 12. That will be equal to 144 minus 4 times 2 times 18 will be equal to 36. Yan, let's furthermore simplify this one. 144 minus uh, 4 times 36 will be equal to 144. Therefore, our discriminant is 144 minus 144, which will be equal to 0. So as you observe, our discriminant will be equal to 0. So if that's the case, then ito lang rin yung choice natin. If the discriminant is equal to 0 or b squared minus 4ac is equal to 0, then the roots are real, rational, and equal. And that's the lesson for today. I hope you understand how to characterize the nature of the roots of a quadratic equation without actually solving for the roots. I think you're now ready to try some examples about characterizing the roots of a quadratic equation without even solving the roots of it. So for 5 seconds, kindly pause the video. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. O, sige, sana nasagutan na. So, tignan natin if your answers are correct. Here are the answers now. So, yan, you have to consider if the discriminant is uh, 0, positive, or negative. So, ito yung mga sagot natin. I hope you understand the lesson for today. Until next time, bye!